Welcome to the Mama Bear Family Care Mastermind Summit. I'm Sherilyn and I will be hosting the summit. Today we have the privilege of talking with Dr. Tanmeet Sethi, MD, a physician, activist, author, and speaker, all with the mission to upend systems of oppression and shifting consciousness with the alchemy of ancient and modern modalities. She is a board-certified integrative family medicine physician and clinical associate professor at the University of Washington School of Medicine. She has 25 years of frontline experience practicing primary care, working in global trauma and community activism. Dr. Sethi has devoted her career to caring for the most vulnerable and teaching physicians how to care for these communities in the most humane and skillful way possible. She is a highly sought after speaker, and her TEDx talk, 2 Words That Can Change Your Life, offers a radical way to practice gratitude. Her incredible book, Joy is My Justice, has been said to boldly call out the wellness industry, emphasizing the difference between toxic positivity and true joy. This paradigm shifting book explains the powerful and empowering idea that joy is an inherent human birthright, accessible to all, and is the source of our deepest justice. Hello, Tanmeet. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for that warm introduction. Welcome. Thank you.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. Your work is amazing. I'm so impressed. I was reading about what you've done. There's just so much. Oh my goodness. And your heart, really caring for the most vulnerable people. I can tell that is behind everything that you do.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I've really been enjoying your book too. It's extremely juicy.
Great.
And the book comes with a playlist.
Yes.
Music, inspiring music, healing music. I've been enjoying that. So can you please share with the audience what your passion is and how the idea for your book, Joy is My Justice, came to you?
Yeah. Well, I'm Sherilyn. I was on top of the world pregnant with my 3rd child when I received news for my 2nd that was devastating. And that was a fatal illness called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is like an ALS in children. And it was a timestamp, before, after kind of moment. And as you said in your intro, I'm an activist. I fight for justice. I've always done that. And when something's wrong in the world, I fight back. And in that moment, there was nothing left to fight for. Even the doctor told us, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. And, it was on this path, though, where I learned that if I walked back towards my pain, the pain I wanted desperately to escape, that I could have something revolutionary and even more beautiful emerge. And that's my joy. And it really became a alchemy of my professional and personal work that I've been doing my whole life to understand that joy is the most potent medicine we can find. And it's available to all of us. It's our birthright. And not only is it available to all of us, but it is crucial that in the face of oppression, trauma, and suffering, that we reclaim our joy, because that is how we reclaim our power and our humanity.
Wow. That's so deep, and I've been in the wellness and healing world for quite a long time, and your story really kind of threw me for a loop because, as other people have said, your message really challenges the prevailing paradigm in the wellness industry. Because I know for myself, part of the way that I've had comfort and found strength is by telling myself, or discovering that what I had been told was unchangeable and incurable actually wasn't. And obviously I have lasting scars from my life, and I hadn't realized until listening to your TED Talk and listening to some of your interviews and reading your book that I guess I had been, partially maybe because of the message in the wellness industry, sort of shied away from facing those things head on that are unchangeable. I mean, even in my life, it's like we've been trained that we have to pretend that they're not there, or that, well, somehow we can do something to change it, and not at all facing what is unchangeable, as if that is the only way to overcome or to achieve wellness, or is that what you talk about? Is that what you're talking about when you say
Yeah.
toxic positivity?
Well, that and the fact that I think that what's harmful about the conversation in our wellness industry is that it doesn't differentiate between happiness and joy. And so happiness is a cognitive evaluative outcome of what is happening or what we're getting or how things are going. And it's beautiful. But when the constructs of our lives are not happy, when we're struggling in poverty or oppression or loss or grief or war, or I can name so many things, or my situation, when we're in those constructs and things are not happy, then we're left to be felt broken, that we are unable to hack ourselves to feel better, that we are not resilient enough. And my message and my hope is that people will hear that joy is different than happiness. And even when the constructs are not happy, joy is still available to us. And this differentiating of joy and happiness is crucial if we want to give everyone a voice in the mental health conversation and everyone a chance to feel better. And so, yeah, I think that, it really is this overarching sense that we're broken if we feel sad. And the
Yeah.
truth is, you have to feel sad, like you were saying, you have to face your pain to allow that same deep continuum, that same deep capacity for joy to emerge. And people feel confused by that sometimes. And so the way I like to also flip it for people is that to just understand, if you're shutting down to your pain, if you're shutting down to your sadness, your anger, your fear, your frustration, whatever it may be, you shut down to everything. You shut down to the capacity to feel everything. And so you cannot feel joy as well. And to feel fully alive, we have to feel the whole continuum.
Yeah, I know that a lot of times I have felt unseen or misunderstood in those settings where it's like, oh, I better get myself together to be like, I'm kind of a achiever type, right? And so I want to get an A in the class, right? So it's like in the wellness field, it's attending the groups or classes, like, well, to get an A in this class, I have to feel good. I have to be happy about everything, or have a positive spin on everything. And that's just such a refreshing perspective. You don't have to cut off a whole part of yourself. In fact, cutting off that part is keeping us from actually achieving wellness.
Yes. And also, especially particular to your communities listening, Sherilyn, I think that parents also in general, we are taught that if we want to feel better, we need to take care of ourselves so that we can be a better parent or a better this or a better that. And what I would say is that I used to believe that. And now really I've shifted to, I care for myself and my well-being because I deserve to, because I'm a sacred human being and I deserve that kind of nurturing and self-care. And it isn't to be better at anything, although that is a byproduct, I will not lie. But to have that be the anchor of why you should care for yourself never feels completely genuine, because you're just doing it to produce more or be better at something.
Right. It's sort of objectifying ourselves as if we are only our roles that we have in our lives. And you explain that you talk a lot about how joy can exist in the presence of grief or suffering, pain, even sacred anger or rage, that joy can coexist and they're not mutually exclusive. And, the kind of unchangeable circumstance that you were forced into facing with your son. The wellness industry seems to shy away from facing that, and it comes up short in helping people in that situation. As I mentioned, I've felt that way myself when I was just left on my own, to with that kind of pain, because it's like you check that at the door, which is kind of ironic. But it got me thinking about what wellness is. What is wellness? Because can it exist in the midst of illness, just as
Yes.
joy can exist in the midst of grief?
Yes. Yes, I resonate so much with what you're saying. I mean, the reason that they can coexist is because joy is meaning, connection, belonging, love. And so you can be I often am in a very dark moment, and someone will reach out and nurture me and connect to my heart in a way that all my body wants to do is shut down and close down. And when someone connects to me, it opens me back up and reminds me of my humanity and my humanness. And in that moment of connection, that is a moment of joy, right? Or I can be feeling really sad or having a hard day, and I can take a walk and see a moment of wonder, a new spring bloom that comes back no matter how cold the winter was, or whatever it is. I mean, the fact that I turn on my faucet and hot water comes out is a moment of wonder, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so there are these ways, though, when you are, for instance, that example of walking and looking at a tree and seeing a bird in a tree. Imagine that connection you can feel when you really have a moment of connection and gratitude that this tree houses so much. This tree feeds so much. So many species of this ecosystem are living off this tree, and so am I. There's so much I don't understand. And instantly, I'm a part of a bigger cosmos than I was when I was in my narrow lens of suffering. It doesn't mean that everything just gets made okay. All right. And that's what I think everybody needs to understand, is that joy is not about a solution. It's not about an answer. It's about expanding yourself so that you can hold whatever comes to you. And so that is a really crucial fundamental difference. And for people to understand that, sometimes you just have to understand that joy is feeling more alive. And sometimes feeling more alive is feeling sad. It really is. But,
Yeah.
I think we've all had that experience where we are, for instance, at a funeral or have lost someone we love, and we are connecting with someone else about the pain, and we're crying maybe or having a moment. And then we laugh together in that very moment about something funny or irritating that that person used to do to us. And, that is joy. It is opening up
Mhm.
to all of it and seeing what emerges.
Okay. It sounds like being present, because I know that the default a lot of times when trauma happens, something that feels traumatic, is sometimes even to leave our body, disassociate, right? And so it sounds like what you're talking about is a way to stay present or to come back.
Yeah, to come back, but I will push back on that a little. When we're in an acute moment of trauma or suffering,
Yeah.
I think that we dissociate for good reasons. I think that is our nervous system protecting us, our brain protecting us. And
Yeah,
so
right.
those are helpful protective mechanisms of our intricate nervous system. So when I say be present to your life and use your life as your teacher, I really mean in that post stage where you're really trying to get unstuck and figure out how to move forward. I will say too, though, I talk about this in my book, is that I do believe presence and using your life as your teacher. I talk about that is important, but I do not discount the past. When that means that sometimes you have to go back and process things. Also, sometimes, often for me at least, ancestral guidance, wisdom, is important. And what I mean by that is not some woo-woo thing of reaching out to some world that people don't understand. What I mean is having gratitude for those who have come before me, for understanding that everything I am is because of all those that walked before me and all those I don't know who walk with me. That brings us again into a broader view of the world and our lives and our issues, right? And so there is this way that the past holds much wisdom for us as well. But being present is, in the context you're talking about, very important. I just don't want people to lose sight of how going to the past actually can have great power for them.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that there's so much power in that. That's who we are
Mm-hmm.
too. It's what makes us up. So would you say that your son's name is Zubin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so for someone who is in that situation, I've seen some videos of him. He seems to be fully living his life, and what to me that almost I'm trying to reframe my idea of what wellness is, because
Mm-hmm.
he seems like in a lot of ways a good example of wellness, and yet that might seem to be contradictory with such a severe illness,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
how would you define wellness?
Yeah. I think wellness is hard to define. I would say first that I would define healing as feeling what you feel and then feeling into that. And I would say wellness is the capacity to find the good and the best in yourself in moments even of struggle. And that it may be thriving in your own way, in your own time. So, when someone says, what's resilience? For someone who is in bed because they're so depressed and they cannot face life, resilience is getting up again every day and facing the world, so thriving and wellness are at your capacity and your ability in that moment, right? I think what you're saying about my son is really interesting, because I do think that as his body is breaking down, his spirit is getting stronger.
Amazing.
But he's sad about much of that, right? So I want people to understand that what they're seeing is the capacity to thrive and rejoice even in the face of pain and struggle. And that is not something
Wow.
that you learn to push through and muscle through and because you're
Mm,
resilient enough. It's because you learn how to face the pain and then also swim in the joy when you get it. When you
mhm.
get the moments of joy, you swim in them. You just stay in them. I talk about in the book actually about one of my greatest joys. You mentioned my playlist is dancing, and music and dancing are. I don't think anything can bring me to a different vibrational state than that that fast. And there was a moment where last year at my 50th birthday party, I was dancing. I danced for hours straight to my favorite music. And I was dancing with my children, and it was so joyous that I actually on the dance floor closed my eyes with tears and thought, remember this, put it in a capsule when you need it. Do not let this go. Do not think it's trite, and do not think this will end. It's not worth it.
Mm,
Swim in it. And so I tell people all the time that it's not just striving and seeking joy with the pain, it's actually knowing to have joy when it comes to you too.
mm, wow. Fully inhabit it, right? Wow. I love that. And hold and treasure it. Hold it in your heart. I
Yes.
love that. And so we're often conditioned to believe that self-care or self-love is selfish,
Mm-hmm.
or somehow at odds or in contrast with self-sacrificing love for others. I've heard that a lot in my life, and I feel that this is actually an inversion of the truth. I think that self-love and self-respect are fundamental prerequisites to having the ability and the willingness to love authentically. And I love your authenticity about that and how bold you are about that, because it takes a certain level of self-love and self-respect to insist on living life with joy. And you get right to the heart of it. I'm talking about joy being, and I love this quote, an innate human birthright. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, what I mean by that is that joy was always with us. No one can take it away and no one gives it to us. It is ours to have and ours to claim and reclaim over and over. And every time we have loss, trauma, or suffering, or live in oppressive society and power structures, we have that joy stripped from us. And it is not only our birthright, I feel like it is our fundamental need to reclaim it as a way to thrive in the face of all of that struggle. And I love what you're saying about self-love. I mean, I think self-love is like tossed around so much that people don't even listen to it, which I understand because it's kind of like love yourself, accept yourself. And, it actually has more tangible power than people understand. It is not woo-woo. There is real neuroscience behind this. And that's why I say in my book, loving yourself is a bold act of justice. Because when we offer compassion to ourselves, we not only dampen the midbrain threat centers that say it's not safe, you're not okay. We dampen those. We also go into the frontal executive function centers that give us motivation, that make us want to make change in ourselves and the world, that tell us you're okay in this moment, even if life does not feel okay. And self-compassion has all of that power. And so to treat it like a, nothing woo-woo kind of trite platitude is really doing it and us a disservice.
Uh-huh. And I love the idea that it's always accessible. In fact, one of the songs on your playlist helped me to understand that better because I love it. It's beautiful, like chorus singing, "The world didn't give it to me, so the world can't take it away. This
Yep.
love of mine, this joy of mine, the strength of mine, the world didn't give it to me, so the world can't take it away." And so drawing on, you talk about drawing on the source of power itself, right? The
Yes.
divine, or however you want to put that, the spirit.
And
And
our own innate power, right? I love
yeah.
that. I feel like that's even the theme song of the whole playlist. That's by Resistance Revival Chorus. Shout out to them. Beautiful, beautiful chorus. Yeah, I feel like when that song comes on, I just feel powerful. Don't you feel it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like, I think there's a lot of really good songs on there, but that's got to be my favorite. I play that one over and over.
Yeah.
It's giving me chills just thinking about it because it's something we can access at any given moment. That's so empowering. So for the women out there who might feel afraid that focusing on joy is somehow disloyal to those suffering around them, or maybe even to their own need to grieve, can you please shed some light and help us do a reality check by answering this question for the audience? What has the effect been on your son? What changes have you seen in him and in your relationship as a direct result of your making the decision to choose joy for yourself?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, I will answer the first part first, which is for anyone who is grieving and feeling that. I feel like you need to grieve. And I really mean that, Charlotte. I don't take away anyone's need to grieve. I grieve, and I have grieved for years and I grieve still. And so, everyone has that right too. And so when I say, I think what's really poignant about what you said was, how can if they feel disloyal to someone. I think I felt that in the beginning. So I really want to say that out loud and have people know that, it felt wrong for a mother. It felt
Right.
wrong. Like, it wouldn't mean I loved him enough, or I'm not a good mother, and on and on. And so that is a real feeling. And what you need to do if you're feeling that, which I felt as well, is just sit with that and know that that question is a gateway to the unlayering of what your limiting beliefs might be around joy. Because I sure as hell had them. I saw, I didn't know that, but I did have them. And so really just use those questions as gateways into your body and into your own soul of what those answers are for you. I can't answer that for any one person, but what I can tell you is that um, our family is really so beautiful, and we're told constantly how inspiring we are, and yet we cry with our community. We say how hard it is, and so I think what people need to understand is that I have a choice, and that really is what it comes down to. I have a choice to only live in the story of the tragedy that has been given to our family, and it is a tragedy and it is unfair. But I have a choice to say, is there a bigger story here? And our bigger story is that if I can teach myself and my children how to still claim joy amidst all of this, then we have taught ourselves how to be human in the most beautiful way possible. And so I take our tragedy as a chance to also not only remind myself that all humans suffer, and suffering goes in many ways, right? I'm neither the worst case you've ever heard nor the easiest. We just have so much suffering. But I'm human and I suffer, but I'm also, because I'm human, I have the right to triumph, and I have the right to have ease and safety and peace in my body. And I have the right to let that inhabit my story just as much as my pain. And so when I expand the container with joy, so much more fits in, right? And now I tell people this, and I really mean it, that every dream I had as a mother was shattered. Every dream in those moments. But I did not know then what I know now, is that the dreams that I've remade for myself and with my family are far bigger than the ones that broke. And I had no idea, but I only now know because I decided to walk back towards the pain.
Wow. Yeah. And I can just imagine, as being like, if I had grown up with a mother in that energy field, you know, how empowering and inspiring that would be, because
Thank you.
you're leading by example, and they're learning from you. And you explained it so beautifully in your TED talk about, I recommend everybody watch that, because you just walked us through. I had to watch it several times. It's so powerful, the whole experience, and how you were so transparent about your experience and courageous about putting to words things that many people have been through, but maybe hadn't been outward about, and how your first reaction was to withdraw as natural, as contract. And I can only imagine how different it would be if you had never gotten past that, how different Zubin's life would be, and your other children, because I'm sure a lot of the joy they are learning themselves is because of witnessing you, and also teaching them.
That's very kind. I'll receive that. But my other two children, they have their own struggles around this path. I mean, it's a hard path. And,
Yeah.
and yet, I like to think that I taught them some things, but I don't know. They just seem to be old souls. So I don't know if I can take all the credit, but I think the four of us are learning together with Zubin how to live this life. And that, I would say, is what happens when you're open to your life instead of trying to distract from or escape from it.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That does take courage.
Yeah. Well, courage, you probably know that courage comes from the word kur, which is of the heart. And
I
really,
didn't know that.
yeah. And, it really, for me, courage is open heartedness. It's really
Mm,
just living from your heart. That's what it is.
okay. Wow. I love that. Yeah, that's new to me. Living from the heart. There's a couple questions I just want to ask every expert to help the audience see the connection that your work has with what I'm calling mama bear energy and ecological living. And so what mama bear energy means to me is making a decision to stand up for and insist on doing what is most important for yourself and or your family, making those things non-negotiable priorities, even when they are unusual or unpopular. And I think I know the answer to this question, but has this kind of decision been a part of your journey?
Yes. And I will say to people that I think it's obvious my answer, but I think that what you're really talking about when you describe that is living not only from your heart, but understanding your own needs, right? And so, for instance, early in the journey, I would say no to family events that were really important. And I was not, it was not a fun thing. My family was not happy with me, but I would say no when I said, I'm grieving and I'm grieving and I need some space. And that is hard to say. And it also means that now I say I'm joyful in the face of many things that might be hard for people to hear. So yes, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And it's sad that your path is unusual or radical or revolutionary, because it should be the norm for everyone. We should all be, I feel like we should all be raised with this knowledge. It has been a challenge then in dealing sometimes with friends, family, or professionals who didn't understand. And how did you continue on that path despite that resistance? And what wisdom can you offer for women who may feel a similar calling but feel conflicted or intimidated about moving forward with it?
Ah, it was hard and many times. And I would say that really what I did was give myself space and give myself grace.
Yeah.
I talk in the book about how grace is my form of forgiveness. I'm done with forgiveness, but I love grace and I give
Mhm.
myself lots of space for it. And I would offer to anyone listening who feels like they're not sure what to do with that kind of reaction or how to be, is just to be yourself in your own space and allow them to take care of themselves. And that goes in small and big ways. It might mean saying no to an event like I'm talking about, but it also might mean, when people say, this is a very small but practical thing that I would offer to people, is that people would just say, how are you doing? And, that's a hard question to answer. And
Yeah.
then it would feel like I would lie at first. It would feel like I would just say, good, great, or whatever, and then move on. But I'd feel horrible
Yeah.
because I was denying myself my feelings. So I don't do that anymore. If I'm having a hard day and someone says, how are you doing? I say, I'm doing really well, but it's a challenge every moment of the day. How are you? Or I
Yeah.
say, not so great. Do you really have time? Or, like I'm done with taking it on. And I just gently give it back
Yeah.
because I don't need to carry everyone's energy or their resistance with me. And so, many people in my life didn't even call me or ignored me after this happened because they couldn't manage the pain. And I just had to have that happen. And it hurt really badly. But eventually, when I felt strong enough, I asked them, why didn't you call me? Or why haven't you been here? And they would say, it was so painful and I didn't know what to say. And
Yeah.
I just tell them, I say, you could say, I love you. That's all I need. And so, really, allowing yourself to just speak your truth, speak it,
Mm.
because you'll be helping other people heal.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. A lot of what you talk about is radical acceptance, right? Rather than fighting against the way things are, fighting against what you need or how you feel, or being in denial about what's happening. It you seem to be mastering going with that flow. In fact, some of the songs on your playlist are about going with the flow, right? And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to be in harmony and alignment and resonance rather than fighting against reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
how has that been empowering to you?
Yeah, I think that is really true. But except that I would say if mastering means doing it well sometimes and doing it horribly other times, then yes, I'm mastering it. And so I would say that is my intention every day. And sometimes it goes very smooth, like a current down a river stream. And sometimes I feel like I'm swimming upstream. And then, what I do when I'm swimming upstream against it is I offer myself compassion at the end of the day. And I say, may I flow with the river tomorrow. And so there is really no mastery to this being human other than trying to be human again the next day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. And I see that I experience that as empowering because it's being our true selves, right? Being
Yes.
authentic. It takes so much energy to be fake.
Yes.
or to be inauthentic about what's really happening, or even to hide our own eyes from what's going on.
Yes.
So I could talk to you for hours,
I know. It's been really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Well, maybe sometime in the future you can come back.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend watching Tanmeet's thought-provoking and eye-opening TEDx talk, 2 words that can change your life, on a powerful way to practice gratitude. And definitely get your copy of her incredible book, Joy is My
We
Justice.
both have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, Dr. Sethi has generously offered to give away a copy of this book.
I would love to. Yes.
One of our viewers. So there will be a link available that you can use to enter your name into the drawing to win this book. And so where should viewers go to find out more about your work?
Yeah. My website, which is my name, tanmeetsethiMD.com, or you can quickly get there by just putting in joyismyjustice.com, and it will take you straight to my website and my book page. And I'm most active. I'm on all social media channels at Tanmeet Sethi MD, but I'm most active on Instagram and really love hearing from people. So I would love for you to come follow and let me know any takeaways and join in with some book deep dives I'm doing on there.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights and wisdom, sharing them with us.
Thank you for having me.